Welcome back to the world with Randall Williams, and we have news. We have news. Rock Nation has posted on Instagram and said that the Super Bowl 59 halftime show presented by Apple Music featuring Kendrick Lamar plus SZA is now the most watched halftime show ever with 133.5 million viewers. That's 7.5 million more viewers on average than the actual game had, which is still insane. I cannot believe that 126 million people tuned in to watch a Super Bowl in that had a blowout. I can't believe that. But we're here to discuss the halftime show. I can get into the ratings conversation a little later in an explanation about the behemoth that is the NFL for a game that was once 34-0 and then 34-6 and then 40-6 to have 126 million on average is just ridiculous. But anyways, let's jump into the halftime show. I recorded a video similar to this one a couple days ago, but it just makes sense to do another with fresh news. So I'll get into it. I was at the Superdome pretty early on Sunday. Of course, I attended the game and just sat around and watched as they set up for both the Black National Anthem, for the National Anthem, and then of course all the presentation that goes on into the Super Bowl. All of that was really dope. And obviously the game was lackluster to say the least. It's sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. It isn't NFL's fault. It's the Chiefs' fault and the Eagles' fault. Just utter domination. But anyways, it probably took about 10 to 15 minutes to set up the Super Bowl halftime show set. As soon as the teams got off the field, it's like a mad scramble to set things up. Like everybody's running around. And you start to see the game board being set up. And one of the things that I've been seeing on Twitter is that people are saying like that the setup or the camera angles weren't as good on TV. In person, they were insane. Like the lighting around the stadium was really dope. I do think that after being there in person versus being at home, that I enjoyed it in person a little more than I enjoyed it at home. It was very focused on like it Kendrick was guiding the camera, and you didn't get to pan around the stadium or um, look into the crowd or to see how people were vibing with it a bunch. And don't get me wrong, I don't think that like the stadium was rocking by any means. Like you know, people who are attending the Super Bowl in large part are sponsors and things like that. And then you have some fans too, and that was very much an Eagles crowd and a predominantly white crowd that I don't know that if Taylor Swift wasn't in there or another pop artist, I don't know that they would have been singing along. Like this isn't the exact same thing as like it was in LA. And I was also there for Usher last year, and Usher had moments where people were singing along, and other times where he didn't. So that's what I'd say about the noise and the viewership. Getting right into the halftime show specifically, whatever that song that he's performing, people are calling it tiramisu. I've seen other people call it bodies. That song is hard. That song is hard. I won't do a lyric breakdown here, but where is that song? I need to figure out where that song is. It needs to drop. Maybe it's on the GNX Deluxe. What day is Juneteenth this year? Maybe I'll come up with my own Kendrick conspiracy theory. Juneteenth must be on a Thursday, I think. Is it on a Wednesday last year? Yeah, it's on Thursday. So it doesn't make sense. Well, who knows? Maybe Kendrick could drop a GNX Deluxe on Juneteenth. It doesn't really make sense after for them to be touring for him to do that. But again, I've told you all this before. I've been wrong in all my guesses. He dropped the album, he dropped the tour dates, and then nothing really happened on the Super Bowl day besides the halftime show. Maybe that was by design for it to just live in the media discourse to have so many different conversations about it instead of dropping an album and then or dropping albums or songs or merchandise or whatever and having that be a part of the discussion as well. Anyways, also, how many people did they fit into that GNX? That did not make any sense to me. It had to be at least 10. I didn't count them all, but it had to be at least 10. After Bodies Come Squabble Up, a Billboard #1 hit, I'm going to continue to say some of these stats because there are people who are like, oh, Kendrick didn't do these hits. These aren't hits. And I'm I want to know how we're defining hit here at this point because it seems like we bend the rules for our favorite artists at every point. Like if we're going based on stats, then the Billboard, if it lands on the Hot 100 list, then that's classified as a hit. And that doesn't mean that if it, to me, if it doesn't land on the Billboard Hot 100 list, then doesn't mean that it isn't a hit. I just consider it a jam. Like for example, I think a good example of that would be like Isaiah Rashad's Headshots. I don't know if that landed on the Billboard Hot 100 at all, but it's an incredible song. He has a bunch of songs to me that are jams, but might not have charted. I thought the choreography was really dope all throughout the show. Uh, for a rap show, like you don't really see choreography a whole lot, especially when you're going to these concerts. A lot of times it's, guys rapping either over their own lyrics or just working the stage really well. And I didn't attend the Mr. Morale and the Big Stepper store, but I watched it on Amazon. That was a big mistake not to go to a show, even though there were multiple here in New York. Um, but I thought the choreography was dope. They said that they studied Prince, Michael Jackson in a Wall Street Journal story. We'll get back to that a little later. Of course, you have Uncle Sam, Samuel L. Jackson, to start things, and he says this is the great American game. I thought that was a double entendre a bit, the American game being football and the American game being the halftime show as well. It was inspired by the PlayStation controller. You have square to start, which is what the GNX is sitting on. You have triangle, you have circle, and then you have X, of course. Um, After Squabble Up, he says, too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. And just so you know, I'm reading off my notes here. Look at this broke notebook. So you know this notebook and I have been through some things. But too loud, too reckless, too ghetto. I thought those were all a play on stereotypes because he comes out rapping let's call it bodies and then squabble up. And those are very, I wouldn't say they're rapidy songs, but they have a lot of words. And the flow is very, very frantic, if you get what I mean. Then he goes into Humble and DNA, and and then Uncle Sam comes back and has a different response, and it's like, oh yeah, like he gets into more of the things that maybe people enjoy a bit more. I was shocked that Euphoria was on the set list, and for context, I did find out the set list a little bit um, before the show, but there's no reason. I don't believe in leaking things. That's just I don't believe in leaking artist things, I'll say, because it just takes away from the art. Like I think that I would not want someone for me to be working on something and it to hit the streets unfinished. And obviously, DJ Academics leaked the set list as well. I heard there was also a video. I didn't see the video. I saw the tweet that he put up initially. He's now saying that the NFL and Rock Nation are threatening to sue him. I don't know how true that is. I don't even think I'll look into it, even though I could confirm that pretty easily. Uh, Anyways, Euphoria was a shocker. I was shocked at Euphoria. I don't know how I want Euphoria. I don't know how high Euphoria was on the Billboard Hot 100 list, but I thought it was pretty high. Euphoria was. Let's see. It debuted at number 11 and peaked at number 3. So if we're going by metrics and actual stat analysis, is Euphoria a hit? I thought he was going to do the chorus. Sorry about that. My pause there. I thought he was going to do the chorus. I hate the way you walk, the way that you talk. I hate the way that you dress. Just because that part is hard. But he elected to do the first part of it instead. And then, of course, you have Man at the Garden. Another one that I was a little bit surprised to do. I know that there are points in the shows where artists choose songs that slow things down a bit. Man at the Garden is quite the choice. I just didn't think he was going to do that song, but then you heard him talk about it in the Timothy Chalamet interview on Apple Music, and he talks about like how much that song means to him and how he means every single word he says, which at that point kind of makes sense if he believes like that's one of his best songs or one of his best verses or best records right now. Then that was cool. Peekaboo, I thought that was the camera angles that they were playing with, going back and forth between the dancers, and then when Kendrick finally says peekaboo, he pops up. That was fun. There's a video on Thought Crimes that I watched on the Company Man's channel where they're breaking down a theory of Kendrick hinting at some things with the late rapper XXX Tentacion and how there's messaging to Drake at that. When they did Peekaboo, he was also in an X. That is very interesting. It kind of confirms the theory a little bit. It adds a little bit more evidence to the theory, I'll say. Then he talked about how he wants to perform his favorite song, of course, Not Like Us. The crowd, when I was there, as soon as that dun dun dun, comes on, the crowd went crazy right away. Like everybody recognized that song.
I want to perform their favorite song, but you know they love the soup. Yeah, that's right.
And everybody recognized that song. And then, of course, he says, I want to perform my favorite song, but you know they love to sue. When I spoke with the NFL and Rock Nation about if they had any concerns about Kendrick performing Not Like Us, and both parties said no, that line there, even before Not Like Us, but you know they love to sue, is all the confirmation I needed today. There was no tension anywhere, which is what I reported to begin with. But to point directly to Drake's defamation lawsuit against UMG, with I'm sure I broke down the claims against it and all, but to point directly in that, there's never any tension. Anything you read, if you read anything about, oh, the NFL doesn't want him to perform Not Like Us, or even TMZ's thing where uh they said that the lawyers from Fox and the NFL were going to go over the halftime show. That was on, I think that was on Thursday or Friday night. Maybe it was a little earlier, but there was rehearsals throughout the week, and all they were doing was reviewing anything to see if they needed to bleep out anything. And of course, the certified lover boy certified pedophiles part was replaced with the scream from the tiramisu slash body song. So they didn't really bleep anything out. Kendrick had live vocals, which was dope, and he bleeped a bunch of words out himself. So for example, uh and Not Like Us, in the opening verse, he said, walk around like Tizo, what's up with these jabroni ass trying to see Compton? Like, so I think that's what he said. Yeah, he did. So moving on, he went right after to Luther, which is a number 3 Billboard hit. It's also competing to be number 1 right now at the time of this recording. Not Like Us is against it. If Luther gets there, that would be dope, but I think Not Like Us is just going to come out on top, of course. Um, Luther is dope. I thought that was a nice little duet between Kendrick and SZA. It's an incredible song, a great jam. And then you have All the Stars, which is a number 7 hit on the Billboard. So if we're talking hits here, like a good portion of these charted pretty highly. All the Stars is a classic record at this point. It's connected to Black Panther. I think it's the last song or the opening song to the credits. And Uncle Sam comes out and says nice and calm. And the way that I took that was the bops, like the way that American people, or a large part of white American people, receive rap music is like they get it in bops. And the songs, like a lot of the songs that I think Drake makes, like the last song that the biggest number 1 hit that I think, the biggest number 1 hits that Drake has that are rapidy in a sense, are, to me, What's Next, and what's the song with 21 on, Honestly Nevermind. Those 2 songs, whatever the name of that song is, those are the most rapidy number 1 hits that Drake has. And everything else are like bops. They're songs that you sing along to and have a good time to. And I think All the Stars and Luther kind of have that boppityness, even though the vibes are different. And then Kendrick comes out right after All the Stars, and you get into the Not Like Us dialogue where he's talking about this 40 acres and a mule. This is more than the music. And then they try to rig the game. This is but you can't rig influence, or something along those lines. Uh 40 acres and a mule is a reference to what reparations were supposed to be ultimately. Um the enslaved people, the enslaved African Americans or Africans, never got that, of course. And he gets right into Not Like Us, and everybody's just waiting to see, like, oh, how's he gonna do it? And of course, his Say Drake face was hilarious, like smiling directly into the camera. That was 100% intentional. um that was funny. And I think the rapping in circles, or he was walking in circles as he was doing the song, that was cool. uh There were like I said, there was no concerns. I can't stress that enough. There are no concerns from Rock Nation and the NFL on performing Not Like Us because certified lover boy, certified crack, like whatever that noise is. And then the A minor line was the loudest of the night. I'll play the clip here.
Bitch, ain't you tired? Trying to second chord, and it's probably ain't not like.
And of course, after A minor, he goes into the last part of it. I didn't know if he was going to do the OV ho line. That would have been interesting to hear that call and response from the crowd because I do think that people would have known that. Because he would have said, everybody say, and then there would have been a call and response. Serena Williams was fun, of course. You know, there's a connection between Serena and Drake. That's obviously they used to date back in the day, and she crip walks, and she says on an Instagram post that they had been trying to work together for a long time, and it just came together for her to crip walk. And um, I'm not from LA. I don't know if that's a crip walk or not, but she said it was, so that's what I'm gonna go with. And she's from out there, so if you're gonna correct me, correct her, correct the Compton native. You get TV off, of course. I in my prediction video that never posted, I was predicting the opposite, but the opposite that Not Like Us would be the finale and TV off would be the song before the finale. But it makes sense. Like turn the TV off right as you finish the performance. Mustard was the second loudest line of the night, and Kendrick and Mustard are dancing and having a good time as they perform the song. Then you have Game Over, which I think is funny because you have the game over, which halftime the game was pretty much over. It was 24 to nothing. You have the American game, which is that in reference to the game that's Kendrick set up as the halftime show was going on, and then you have Game Two, which is what Drake was saying in I want to say his plot twist account where he says we will win Game Two, and then you have like academics who is trampolining all of his messaging and saying like Game Two has nothing to do with the beef. And I felt like Kendrick responded on his Super Bowl halftime show commercial where he said, you only get one opportunity to win a championship, no round twos. And then, of course, you have Game Over after all of these records. Euphoria, of course, Not Like Us. I think TV Off has some subs in there. There's like speculation that all the stars did too. And that's what I took from it. I think that if someone said that Kendrick dissed Drake the whole halftime show, I don't think that it would be far fetched. It's strictly off the music. I'm not talking about the choreography or any of the dance performances, but a lot of the music. I think if you remove like Man at the Garden, um, All the Stars, Luther. Oh, excuse me, not All the Stars. Yeah, Man at the Garden, Luther, and there's the theory about Peekaboo. Um, yes, Humble, DNA. Like there are at least 4 songs in this set list that appear to have some shots, or 2 that we know confirmed, and others that are speculated to. Now, in the Wall Street Journal, Dave Freeze sat down with, I believe her name is Ashley Wong. Let's see real quick. I believe her name. Yes, her name's Ashley Wong at the Wall Street Journal, and he said that we wanted this performance to have a cinematic and theatrical element to it. We can confidently say that there's no Super Bowl performance quite like this one. It started as a call from Jay-Z. We all know that Hove he makes the call for all of the halftime show, and then you have that this was the feel of it is Black America. What does Black America look like, and how to control the narrative of what it means to be Black in America versus what the world's perspective of that is, which I think is about if you listen to the Uncle Sam dialogue and what he says in response to different things, like his response to the opening songs, Squabble Up and Bodies, is too ghetto, too reckless, too loud. And then after he plays hits, he said after he plays the hits, he's like, oh yeah, like that's what we want. And then he plays he plays the bops and he responds positively. And then he has some dialogue about the homies, which I don't. There's a couple theories out there about that, about what that means. I don't want to get into it as well, just because I think I would be being lazy by trying to break down something that I didn't look at into detail. Um, that was another thing. The three categories of people that I'm seeing don't like this show are Drake fans, Wayne fans who think that Wayne should have been there, and people who don't like rap music or like their rap music a specific way. Those are the three categories. Drake fans are always going to be downing this show. I haven't talked to a single Drake fan, whether that be in the group chats, on Twitter, on Instagram. I haven't seen a single Drake fan who's like, "Oh, that show was dope." Every single Drake fan is like, "Oh, that was trash. They're calling it the worst halftime show ever." I even see like some propaganda articles out there. Can't remember what outlet it was that said the NFL apologized for the halftime show. Never happened. NFL didn't apologize for anything. Um, on the Wayne end, I think it was Jeff Teague's 520 podcast that said it would have been dope for Wayne to be there. And I think the only thing that I would say about that is Wayne is a legendary MC. And I think that if I was putting on the show, I would have had concerns as to how he would perform. How he would perform. And not to say he can't put on a good show, but I mean, we've all seen the pictures of Wayne as of late in terms of like his public appearances, how he looks as a public figure. He doesn't always look to be the best kept celebrity. And I think when you're presenting it in front of 130 million people, or 120 million people, you go back to the latest 6 halftime shows since Rock Nation has arrived: Kendrick, Usher, Rihanna, The Weekend. No, Kendrick, Usher, Rihanna. I believe that's the LA show in 2022, the weekend before, and then J Lo and Shakira. All of these figures are clean, and um I think that Wayne also on the other end, this is the first time that I feel like an artist has had a moment and been selected. Like Kendrick was very clearly selected because his 2024 was monstrous. He had 3 number 1 hits. He had the biggest rap song of the year. He won record of the year and song of the year at the Grammys. Like it's very clear that this was an in the moment type of thing. Without his 2024, do I think that Kendrick would have been at this specific halftime show? I'm not so sure. I mean, he's off of what? It would have been 2 years off of, or really, dang, that's a long time has passed. Without GNX and the battle, you would have been 3 years removed from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Um, I think that while Kendrick is worthy of that, his stature hadn't risen to the level of what it is today. But all of that, like, I don't. It's all a hypothetical thing. It did happen. He did have 3 number 1 hits. GNX is a number 1 album. Um, he has incredible records with SZA, and even the conversation about announcing SZA, I think that is in large part because the reason that they announced it is because it builds hype a little bit more. Like if SZA showed up, great. But why not do both at the same time? Announce Kendrick and SZA, and now you build the hype up even more. Now, if the argument is like now it's Kendrick and SZA show, then I mean, if you watch the halftime show performance, and you would know that Kendrick did most of the songs up there, and SZA did Luther and All the Stars. I thought that she would have done her own, but it's Kendrick's show, so they did the collaborations. But that's it. Like that's all there is to it. I think that Drake fans will be Drake fans, as Kendrick fans will be Kendrick fans. And, you know, Wayne fans, I get the disappointment. I think that he could have done more to be ready for the moment. I think that if you are a legacy rap act, I'll say that it's very wise for you to either drop an album that has a number 1 hit or have something that captures the moment rather than like live off the hits from 10 years ago. And I do think that there are different rules for rap versus R&B. Like I think R&B songs they have a tendency to live longer. Usher songs, Rihanna songs, even you go back to like on the pop side and the Latin music side, like J Lo and Shakira. And if you go to the LA show with Dre and Snoop and Mary J. Blige and Kendrick and Eminem and 50 Cent and Anderson .Paak, like that's 7 different people. I think that's 7. Dre, Eminem, Snoop, Kendrick, Mary J. Blige, yeah, Anderson .Paak and 50 Cent. 7 different people on one stage, all announced except for 50 Cent and Anderson .Paak. Like it's just one of those things where Dre and Snoop, who were originally announced, they've been around forever. Like those songs, it's a legacy act. Would Wayne qualify as a legacy act? Yes, but in comparison to Rihanna and Usher, I'll let you decide. But I don't know that his current trajectory of where he has been, let's say over the last 10 years, is the same as Rihanna and Usher's, just in sports pop culture. Like Rihanna, Anti is a classic. And I think Usher's run is just remarkable. He also had the moment at the Las Vegas residency. What's Wayne's moment over the last 5 years in comparison to those things? And also, Rihanna as a public figure is just different. So I understand Wayne fans, and I think if you want to argue and debate me into the ground, that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and the halftime show is over now, so we'll be moving on. And then, of course, there's the people who don't like rap and the DEI attackers who are claiming this is a DEI halftime show. I guess the last 6 or 7 would be that. Is hilarious. Look, I spoke with Rock Nation. They said that choosing the halftime show performers completely up to Jay, of course, and that they are considering country music. Beyonce just performed a country music album on Christmas. Like that's all there is to it. And you move on. What is the Super Bowl 60 and 61 and 62 halftime show performers look like? I have no idea. I think that it'll be interesting. You'll definitely. I would be shocked if there's not a pop performer at some point at one of those shows. I won't guesstimate into this video specifically, but I think that they will expand even farther than they already have. As again, how I started this video, the Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl, Apple Music Super Bowl 59 halftime show is now the most watched ever. We'll wait for official ratings from Nielsen or official viewership ratings from Nielsen to come out probably a little later today. Fox on the conservative side had 126 million, and then Rock Nation put up 133.5. The NFL has said that Usher's halftime show was the most watched ever with 129. So this would obviously clearly surpass that. Now, there is a number out there about Michael Jackson that says 133.4 million people for his show. I'm working to confirm that. There's a couple things that I think that are out there that I haven't just had enough time to figure out, like what's true and what's not. The ratings back then were different. 133.4 million versus whatever that game viewership, 40 more million people tuning in is insane. And I think Michael Jackson was a one-of-a-kind performer. But getting 40 more million people to tune in is ridiculous, and ridiculous in a good way. But I want to hear what they have to say. So once I figure that out, I'll be back with another video. I'll also do of who I think will perform at the next 3 Super Bowls. And I think on the Invincible front, I'm just going to record a video after Invincible episode 4. That's the easiest thing for me to do. I think the moment has passed a little bit as I was working Super Bowl week, didn't have a chance to watch things. I'm all caught up now, and I do a first half of the season breakdown. So hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of the halftime show. Like, comment, and subscribe. And this is The World with Randall Williams. See you all next time.